This segment has been sponsored by Pro Bikes Caribe. Pro Bikes Caribe, get yours today. Before we get into today's interview, hear a little bit about the book from the author themselves.
Mrs. Priscilla Ramcharan, Globalization of Hearts, Nonfiction for All Ages. Meet George Rampersad and Priscilla Ramcharan, Trinidadians at heart, global in lifestyle. George plays the steelpan, taught English and Danish, and writes his own music. The book is about history in the making while they both live abroad and can be found at Amazon.com.
Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Today we have with us none other than Priscilla Ramcharan. For those of y'all who don't know, Priscilla has been doing great work on the West Indian Women's Network. Priscilla, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for having me on your show. I truly feel inspired just being here in your presence.
Well, I mean, the pleasure is all mine. I came across your channel and was really encouraged by the content. And lo and behold, when I'm going through the details, I learned that you're an author as well. So it seems that you wear a number of hats.
Indeed, I do. So I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and I currently reside in the US. And everything except for the fact that I teach ESL internationally online,
Mhm.
everything else is a hobby.
Well, I guess maybe it's the fact that you make it a hobby. It doesn't seem like work because from the outset I'm thinking to myself like when does she get time to breathe? Because I'm seeing volunteer work, I'm seeing founder of the Western Young Women's Networks, I'm seeing Sweet Finds, I'm seeing Project Love Global, I'm seeing Our English 2.0, and like my head was spinning.
So that's my everyday is a whirlwind, trying to keep up with everything that I've created and saying, why did I want so much? But I realized that I'm always blessed with more than enough. It's like you were saying earlier, you launch something and the energy around it helps it to build itself. So
Yes.
beautiful people like yourself are coming into my network. I'm blessing others by having them on my channel and sharing my work. So for me, it's that give and take dynamic that helps to expand and grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty evident because again, no, it again through observation. I,
Right.
your name is it's pretty common among persons in the Caribbean.
Ooh, that's exciting. I
Well,
think that's my goal. One of my colleagues commented that I'm a community builder and game changer. And when she said that to me, it really resonated because I was like, what am I doing with all of these aspects, all these hobbies? How are they connecting? But at the end of the day, it is that community that's being built with Caribbean folks on the island
mhm.
and around the world, which was the inspiration for Globalization of Hearts.
Yes, yes, yes. The reason for the meeting, globalization of hearts. I started to go through it, and I have to admit I liked it, not because it was a short read for persons who aren't into lengthy reads, but I believe that you had that in mind. You were catering for the attention span of some persons, and that's very considerate. But personally, one of the things I liked about it is as a Trinidadian, there are a lot of words and phrases and terms that are commonly used in the Caribbean that were used throughout the book. So it felt like, we were having a conversation, or rather, when a conversation was being had, I was within earshot and I was able to understand, what was being said, you know. So I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to read it. That was one of the main focuses in my writing career as a student is really finding your voice. So whoever gets their hands on your work, they can hear you wherever you are. They can hear your voice as they're reading your work.
Um, so I have to go with the obvious question. I mean,
Mhm.
yourself and George Rampersad, what motivated you guys to document your journeys, or rather the experiences that you would have had into this book, The Globalization of Hearts?
Absolutely. Well, every time George and I would speak, the first thing is we want to go home. So we always had that in common where no matter where we are thinking about Trinidad. We're cooking the food from Trinidad, listening to the music. That genetic is within you that nowhere wherever you are, you create that home vibe, if that makes sense. So, with him telling me his stories and his experiences as to how he made it from Trinidad to all the way in Denmark and his journey throughout, I said, you know what? This is history in the making. Oftentimes, we're always reading about what happened, but we're not concentrating on what our people are creating nowadays in the present moment. So I wanted to capture and be sure to capture his story that connected with me in a book that will last for generations.
No, well, if that's the case, I think that you all hit the nail on the head with that because
Woohoo!
I was very much impressed as again I'm going through the contents of the book and I don't want to give too much away about the book. So persons get your copy of the book so you'll know what it is I'm talking about.
Right.
Um, but there's a particular situation early in the book where George talks about being at a teacher's training college and he's faced with a situation and he has to make a decision.
Hmm.
And I have to admit, when I read how the entire situation played out, I was kind of, giving high fives and, rooting, for the outcome and everything, because I'm there and I'm seeing
Uh-huh.
my fellow countryman and I'm cheering
Right.
as well. And I would have liked to have maybe spoken with him, or maybe you might maybe able to give some insight as to when it is that the situation unfolded, if it is that he might have done anything differently. Some of these situations that you would have had to face, would you have handled some of these situations differently in retrospect?
1000%. You know that saying, if we had known what we know now, we would have done this then. So, in the heat of the moment, your natural instincts come out to play, your patience is tested, and your entire vibe will tell you if something is just not resonating or aligning with you. And so, knowing him, he's very straightforward, very direct. He knows what he wants and he knows himself very, very well, which is what I aspire to become. So I believe that he reacted based on situations leading up to that moment. So he might have had time to consider the best possible outcome,
hmm
but
hmm
I'd be happy to introduce you and have him answer for himself.
No, I would welcome that. I would
Yeah,
at
he'd
some
be
point in
excited.
time.
Hmm. So this month is Caribbean American History Month.
Ah,
Yes, and Project Love Global is my nonprofit where I send basic needs items to children in Trinidad. We're expanding to Tobago and possibly to Colombia in the near future. And so George Rampersad agreed that every book sale of Globalization of Hearts will be donated to Project Love Global, where, we're kind of recycling the goodness. So
hmm
all of the
hmm
proceeds will go towards our Christmas event in Trinidad, Christmas 2024, to buy presents and decorations and have treats and activities for children in need.
ah. So persons, you're hearing that every time that you purchase a book, it's going towards the cause. So in addition to hearing the good story that's contained within it, get yourself a copy, just all the same.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. And I will offer autograph copies to anyone interested. They just need to email me at projectlovetrinidad@gmail.com and I will send out an autographed copy. And you can also find the book on Digital Canopy as well as on Amazon. And let me tell you a little bit about Digital Canopy.
hmm
I realize and I'm so sad that I only just learned about them, but it's a plethora of work by Caribbean authors. So to me, that itself is a gold mine.
I remember the interview that you had as it relates to that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you're always having these interesting persons on your platform.
Waiting for you. I'm
Yeah,
putting it out there for the people to know.
yeah, but the term is speaking it into being, as they say. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. I'm also a huge fan of the law of attraction. And again, with building the West Indian Women Network, I'm looking for people to interview, share what they're doing around the world. And never heard of George Rampersad, to be honest. And
Ah,
a friend of mine, all the way out in Dubai, the
yeah.
word spreads with Caribbean people, sent me this song, Suitcase from Trinidad. I don't know if you've heard his Suitcase from Trinidad song. And so I reached out to him just randomly and I said, hey, I need you on my channel. He responded immediately. And from that moment, we just became besties.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because again, as the title of the book is Globalization of Hearts. Well, I have two questions. The first is, in the book you identified, and again, I'm giving some spoilers, people, not much, just one or two spoilers. In the book, you identify how the title of the book came about, and you said that it came about from a tune written by George, and I was really interested as to like how the tune that he would have written would have had bearing on the title of the book, because I haven't heard the tune as yet, and I just want to let persons who know the actual word used was tune, not song. Persons from the Caribbean would know what I'm talking about. And if you're not from the Caribbean, you could say tune is like the equivalent of a song, but that's just me just segueing a bit. But my question is, the song, the tune, how did that have bearing on the title? I don't know the lyrics, so can you just share some details about
Absolutely.
that?
Yes. And if you flip to the end of the book, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see the lyrics written out in his personal handwriting.
Ah,
Yes. And so for me, it was just the title alone that inspired the book because automatically I thought he has the same idea, you
mm-hmm.
know, making your hearts so big, so wide that you encompass your culture, your people from around the world and making it global where he's playing the steel pan all the way out there. He's
Yeah.
introducing our culture to folks who may not have even heard of the steel pan.
No, and I thought that was impressive because again, well, I don't want to give too much away about the book, but you know what? Let me just leave that there. Guys, go
Okay.
buy the book, read about the situation, and we'll talk about it. You can leave your thoughts in the comments below the interview.
Absolutely. And feel free to connect with me anytime to share your reaction to the book. And, it goes way back into the 60s, 70s in Trinidad, where technology was non existent to that point where you can connect with people around the world the way you can now. So just imagine the evolution of communication and getting to meet somebody all the way across the world who had an entire lifetime before to then tell you their story. And that's what I love most about connecting with people is hearing their story, hearing their experiences and learning from it, but also finding that commonality where you can appreciate the life that they've lived to then learn about how you can make those improvements in your own personal life. So he really is an inspiration.
He does sound like that.
Yeah.
The memoir, the book that you would have written, it highlights, George's diverse careers in music and yours in education as well. Um, Pursuing like higher education abroad, would that have shaped or changed your perspective on the world or your view on things?
That is an amazing question. And the first thing that comes to mind is something that I told one of my clients. Once you let something out of the box, you're not getting that back in the box the same way. So once you expand your horizons, your knowledge, your education, you can only take it that step that much further as to where the opportunities will take you. So people who are educated on the islands versus people who are educated internationally in other places of the world, I want to say, of course, the opportunities are greater, but I don't want to limit the level of education that is offered anywhere you go because it's all about what you do with what you're learning. And it's up to you to decide if you want to expand your learning. For me, becoming an ESL teacher, very strange story when I first came to this country and I attended public school, excuse me, in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm chatting in the gym, but I still have my Trini accent, like, oh, yes, so and so.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And this American young man, he came up to me and he says, "Listen, nobody knows what you're saying. Go back to where you came from." Now, granted, I'm like, yeah, like that's not gonna happen. But in that moment, I decided, you know what? I am going to learn American English fluently. And lo and behold, it became my career to teach English.
I remember reading that in the book and I was thinking to myself, whoa, like I believe that you were really young at the time, so it would have made quite an impression on you.
Right, right. And imagine being one of the only three Trinidadians in a school of maybe 800 students.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's this running joke that we have sometimes, it's sometimes when it is that you're abroad, you can identify a Trinidadian nearly anywhere.
Right. And we look for each other. You're from Trinidad?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I in putting the book together, why did you choose the route of self-publishing? Why not go the traditional route of publishing? Because it sounds like an interesting memoir that you have right here.
Right, right. Well, I'm always a one-woman show. I've always liked to do my own thing and do it my own way. And working with a traditional publisher, to be honest, seems so daunting and so expensive. So I said to myself, being a stay-at-home mom where my income is limited because, I'm balancing both worlds, it would be a much feasible, financially feasible to go ahead and publish independently. And then I started enjoying creating the guidelines, following the rules, making my own margins and uploading the book and such. So after the first book that I published independently, I said, you know what? I can do this on my own. And so I like that rustic, independent, do it yourself style.
Ah, I was talking with another author. I think
Hmm.
it Daniel Francis. It was on one of the previous
Oh,
interviews. And
yes,
and he was
he's
saying that,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how I was able to contact you. I think he had added me to a group, and you were in the group. So I was like, but look at this. I mean, I'm watching the woman on YouTube, and she's as talented as I am right now. I mean, yeah. So if it is
I
that you're,
love it.
yeah, if you're not out there, bringing groups together, you're joining groups and then bringing persons together after, being added to the groups. But that's another discussion. But back to
Absolutely.
Daniel. You
Hmm.
were saying, doing a book, writing a book is like getting a tattoo. You do it once, and then you think, man, I want to do it again or get more of it. And
Right.
to date, how many books have you written so far?
Oh, I want to say about 20 plus.
My goodness.
Books, yes, I have a few Spanish workbooks in there, a few self-help, and like I said, I love the law of attraction. So I have a couple of 21 Days to Abundance. There's this magic in 21 days.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So I can't fit back in that box is pretty
hmm,
much what it is.
hmm, hmm,
I love everything. I like to share everything. And when something really drives me, I can't sleep. The moment I wake up, that's what I'm working on until I'm at completion.
hmm,
So those books, the Saucy Wow series actually was inspired by my two daughters. We
hmm.
used to always tell stories at bedtime, and sometimes they would continue for days. And so I say, you know what? We need to write these stories down. So we typed them up. It was so cute. And then my daughter at 9, she started illustrating those books for me.
Ah,
So she became part of the business. Yeah.
look at that.
Right. So the books are all genres, just like me, all over the place, but it works eventually.
No, I think it's really interesting and creative how it is again. Yeah, I mean, you're doing these books. Well, first off, you're not limiting yourself to one genre, as you said, self-help, education books, etc. And
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that you are not limiting yourself to one genre of book. You indicated that you write in addition to education books, you do a little bit of self-help, etc. Switching between from one genre to the other, was it difficult for you, or was it something that came to you naturally?
It came to me naturally. It depends on the mood that I'm in. It depends on the inspiration that I'm feeling. Um, I don't set aside specific time to work on any one project.
Hmm.
I just wait till how I feel today, and then I will work on the project that really calls and attracts my attention in that moment.
Uh, yeah, it's all spoken like a true creative.
Indeed.
But
Indeed.
And I like how it is that you're involving your daughter in the business because it's just, when it is that, children, first off, when they see you doing things, that serves as inspiration. But when it is that they're able to assist and involve themselves in the process, it doesn't seem like something foreign, but rather it's something that's simple enough. And lo and behold, soon enough, I guess we'll see books by your daughters as well.
Hopefully, she is such a creative as well, and she does so many amazing things, but she's always there to kind of give me that push forward. Oh, did
Hmm.
you work on this today? Did you need this illustrated? Yesterday we had a 4-hour meeting to organize Project Love Global.
Ah, okay.
So she made a huge calendar for me, a to-do list, and all of that. So it's more so of them wanting to participate because you can invite as much as you want, but if that passion is not there, you won't see it. But once it's something that resonates with them, they'll come to you.
Do you think that the conversations that you have about Trinidad, the stories that you tell about your time home, doubles, places that you have visited, etc., these things kind of, make the entire idea a bit more exciting to them?
Absolutely. And even when they were younger, give them their roti and takari. They didn't visit the island until 2019 was their first trip to
Oh.
Trinidad. And they fit right in. I was worried to bring them when they were much younger.
Hmm.
And so we waited till they were a little more independent and such. Man, they got on their airplane. They were like bosses. Got to Trinidad, handled their business, tried anything. They're very open-minded. And I think most of it is because of my husband and I, where, we don't impress a particular culture on them. We just allow them to naturally gravitate to what feels good to them. So they'll embrace the American culture, they'll embrace the Trinidadian culture. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, them enjoying every holiday, no matter what. True Trinis.
No, one of the thoughts that crossed my mind is that you're a language teacher, and you
Mhm.
created your writing, you're writing books, English, etc. Do you use your books as teaching tools for persons and say, here's what I mean. I wrote this book, go through the chapters and let's have a discussion about it. And do you use your books for purposes like that?
I tried to use the Saucy Wow books,
Hmm.
but the language was still a little too challenging, especially the colloquial phrases, the what do you call that? The context, excuse
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
context behind the wording was also a bit challenging for them, for the
Hmm.
students,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they're already trying to learn phrasal verbs in English. In regular
Oh.
English, now you have the Trinidadian language. They're like, what? So I utilized the YouTube channel, Our English, to help with pronunciation, listening, and dictation in that way. versus the reading comprehension in that language. And there's so much material out there. So I'm like, why do I need to create something new? I have all these other
Reinventing the
folks
wheel.
that create. Right.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. But in general, how has been the reception for the book?
So, A Trini Christmas Story was our very first book.
Mm-hmm.
And that book, without me even realizing it, is the top seller.
Oh,
Yes. And then the Spanish workbooks, those are my bread and butter.
it makes
Every
sense.
single day. Yeah, I'll
That
log
makes
in and another Spanish workbook sold. But we
sense.
also have a platform here called Teachers Pay Teachers,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
it's for US only. So I'm able to create content on there as well to
Ah,
help the teacher world. Yes.
look at that. Look at that.
Yes. So you just have to really find where you feel the love for your creations and where it's well received and work through that platform because depending on the platform, depending on the people, the niche, the genre, it's just like social media. Some people are Instagrammers more so than Facebookers. So it
Mm-hmm.
just all depends where you feel comfortable and where the content fits in the most.
Ah, okay, okay. I mean, that does make sense. Hmm. We're nearly halfway through 2024. We're in June, and the early part of June, 6 months, is upon us already. What are your plans for the rest of 2024? What should we expect from Priscilla Ramcharan?
Well, we are working on our Project Love Christmas event. That's where most of my focus is going. But do look out for my next book. It's Saucy Wow Celebrates Carnival.
Mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
was supposed to go out for this carnival, but for time restraints and such happening, and it's June already. My goodness, I don't remember January. Um,
You're telling me. You're telling me.
uh-huh. So that is in the works, almost done, waiting for my little illustrator to get her, pen to paper. Actually, now she's using the drawing pads, those digital pads nowadays.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
she got fancy. Um, and with West Indian Women Network, we're just hoping to keep growing and expanding and hoping to be in the Caribbean by the end of summer, maybe meet you in person and meet a few other people. But believe it or not, at the end of the day, I am the shyest introverted person, and nobody believes that. If
yeah.
I could be by myself, quiet, just chilling and doing my own thing, that's my element. But for some reason, the universe just likes to put me out there.
There's this thing I keep on encountering it with writers. I mean, the fact that you're writing a book, yeah, it's like you're writing yourself out of being an introvert because what I've learned is that after you write the book, you have to sell the book. And to sell
Right.
the book, you can't stay in a corner and sell the book. So yeah, you're writing yourself out of being an introvert. So I mean, you're saying what you're saying, but I mean, media says differently. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Unless you're really good at attraction marketing, where you just call those people in. But yeah, at the end of the day, you do have to put yourself out there. And the quote that wakes me up every morning is the road to success is always under construction. So go ahead and make a mess, take things apart, write those drafts 20,000 times. It doesn't matter. Whatever it takes to get you to that finish line,
hmm
do it because you can clean up later.
Okay. Okay. Well said. Well said. I was going to ask if it is that you had like any parting words for listeners at this point in time, but after you mentioned that, I'm not too sure if you could top that. What you just said there.
Well, I read your mind. Great minds think alike, they say, for sure. I can leave you with something else. A couple of years ago, I was shopping and I met a woman in her 70s. And she said to me, she spent her whole adult life worrying about the future, worrying, worrying, worrying. And now that she looked back, everything worked out anyway, and she wishes she had enjoyed herself more.
And that is a very sobering thought.
Yes. So my advice to everybody is have fun with your writing, have fun with your work, have fun with yourself, and be easy on yourself. You know, the harder you are on yourself, the more difficult it is for ideas and your writing to flow. But
Hmm.
once you start having fun with it and being true to yourself, it will flow.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Priscilla Ramcharan, author of the book Globalization of Hearts. Priscilla, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed by Tropical Literature Creatives at this time.
You're most welcome, and thank you for the opportunity. Best wishes for your platform, and I'll see you soon.
For sure, for sure. You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.